In today's lesson, we'll seek to understand the wisdom of the fearing of the Lord. It refers to the utmost reverence and respect paid to the Almighty God. Job 1:8 tells us, "And the Lord said unto Satan, Hast thou considered my servant Job, that there is none like him in the earth, a perfect and upright man, one that feareth God and escheweth evil?" And this fear is not saying that we are scared of him. It motivates us to pursue wisdom and knowledge. It causes us to hate evil. Proverbs 19:23, "The fear of the Lord tendeth to the life, and he that hath it shall abide satisfied. He shall not be visited with evil." And then Proverbs 22:4, "By humility and the fear of the Lord are riches and honor and life." And then Psalms 34:12, "What man is he that desireth life and loveth many days, that he may see good?" And then I can close with Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 13. "Let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God, keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man." And then Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 14, "For God shall bring every work into judgment with every secret thing, whether it be good or whether it be evil." So we're all facing a day where whatever we do is going to be brought out. We're going to have to answer for that. Now Proverbs chapter 14 and verse 1, "Every wise woman buildeth her house, but the foolish pluck it down with her hands." This shows the importance of a wise woman in establishing the right kind of home. In contrast, it is the destructive influence of the foolish woman. God created woman as a helpmate for man. We need to read Proverbs chapter 31 in order to see the tremendous help she was to her entire family, and she is a tremendous help to her family. She can also be a detriment to her own entire family when she does not live in the fear of the Lord. Proverbs 24:3, "Through wisdom is an house builded, and by understanding it is established." And in verse 2, "He that walketh in his uprightness feareth the Lord, but he that is perverse in his ways despiseth him." True reverence for the Lord is demonstrated by obedience to him. It all boils down to being obedient. But he who is willfully disobedient shows contempt for the Lord. And Proverbs 19:1 tells, "Better is the poor that walketh in integrity than he that is perverse in his lips and is a fool." Verse 3, "In the mouth of the foolish is a rod of pride, but the lips of the wise shall preserve them." The foolish are not mentally deficient, but arrogant, rebellious, despisers of the Lord. Their speech is said to be a rod or pride because it proceeds from an evil nature, which, if not changed by divine power, leads to destruction. The wise, guided by the power and the counsel of wisdom, are delivered from the lips of the evil speaking, and use their power of speech to honor the Lord and to do his bidding. Verse 4, "Where no oxen are, the crib is clean, but much increase is by the strength of the ox." Here we're if you don't have an ox that doesn't have any work, then you got a clean stable. But if you don't, you're not going to have anything to produce. If you don't have the oxen to do the work, you're not going to have anything. This is to have no oxen at work may result in a clean crib, but will not provide grain. It's better to have oxen at work producing grain, although such will require cleanup work. Honest labor is God's plan for man. So, verse 5, a faithful witness will not lie, but a false witness will utter lies. A truthful person is committed to honesty and will not lie, while a false or dishonest person will deliberately spread falsehood, even if it's easy for them to do so. So, it contrasts the truthful person compared to the one that delivers falsehood and dishonesty. Verse 6, a scorner seeketh wisdom and findeth it not, but knowledge is easy unto him that understandeth. The scorner fails to find wisdom because he seeks with scorn for the Lord rather than with a submissive reverence. That means the fear of the Lord, which is the beginning of knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. Wisdom comes easy to those who seek from the true source. Verse 7, go from the presence of a foolish man, when thou perceivest not in him the lips of knowledge. Basically, we're to avoid people of the world. We're not to allow their foolishness to influence us. We're to influence them with the gospel and the wisdom of God. We're not supposed to isolate ourselves from them, but we're supposed to try and present the gospel to them and show them the wisdom of God. Verse 8, the wise of the prudent is to understand his way, but the folly of fools is deceit. The wise, they understand God's ways and follows them, but the fool deceives himself into thinking his ways are better than God's ways. In other words, he said, I don't need God, I can do good enough on my own. And verse 9, fools making mock at sin, but among the righteous there is favor. In other words, fools laugh at sin. They think it's funny. But the righteous confess their sins, receiving forgiveness and acceptance from the Lord. That's what the righteous do. They realize that their sin, they confess that sin and get forgiveness and acceptance from the Lord. Verse 10, the heart knoweth its own bitterness, and a stranger doth not intermeddle with his joy. Each person knows what's going on in their own heart. We know what's going on within our own hearts. And the righteous repent of evil, while fools find joy in it. Verse 11, the house of the wicked shall be overthrown, but the tabernacle of the upright shall flourish. This temporary prosperity of the wicked is destined for destruction, while the enduring, through perhaps humble life, or the upright will flourish and be blessed. Here the house symbolizes the life, stability, and legacy of a person or family. The wicked here refers to those who live in opposition to God's will and embrace immoral behavior. And the tent it represents a dwelling of the righteous. While a tent can seem less secure or permanent than a house, here it is used to emphasize that a righteous foundation leads to true flourishing. Verse 12, there's a way that which seemeth right unto man, but the end thereof are the ways of death. There's many ways that lead to death, but there's only one way that leads to salvation. And Proverbs 16:25 tells us, there's a way that seemeth right unto a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death. In other words, some people, there's a way that they seem as right, but the end thereof is destruction and death. John 14:6 tells us, Jesus said unto him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man cometh to the Father but by me. He says, not a way, not one way. He is the way, the only way. Verse 13, even in laughter the heart is sorrowful, and the end of that myrrh is heaviness. This suggests here that this life joys will not eliminate sorrow. But then Job 14:1 says, man that is born of a woman is a few days and full of trouble. And then for a child of God, the day comes when all sorrow shall end. There's a time then we're experiencing sorrow now, but when we get to heaven with God, that's all going to be taken away. There's not going to be any sorrow, there won't be any death, there won't be any crying. And then Revelation 21:4 says, and God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes, and there shall be no more death, neither sorrow nor crying, neither shall there be any more pain, for the former things are passed away. I'm looking forward to that day. I am looking forward to that day. Verse 14, the backslider in heart shall be filled with his own ways, and a good man shall be satisfied from himself. The backslider who's misguided and with darkened understanding has a false sense of satisfaction, pursuing his own ways. But the upright man walketh according to divine instruction, has the satisfying testimony of his conscience that he is pleasing God. Chapter 15, the simple believeth every word, but the prudent man looketh well to his goings. Here, the simple believe everything that they believe everything. They have no spiritual discernment and are easily led astray. And the committed believer who fears the Lord tries the spirits to make sure that the word is from God. Verse 16, a wise man feareth and departeth from evil, but the fool regardeth and is confident. The wise man fears God and departs from evil. The fool, he lives recklessly, giving no regard to the ways of the Lord. Basically, he's doing his own thing. Verse 17, he that is soon angry dealeth foolishly, and a man of wicked devices is hated. There's two kinds of evil. The action of quick-tempered who acts impetuously according to his own emotions, and the careful designed evil plans of the wicked man. In other words, there's some evil, they act right away, but others, they plan their evil, when they're going to do, what they're going to go after somebody. God says to control temper is better than the mighty, or to subdue a city. He says the heart that devises evil is among the things he hates. In other words, the Lord hates those things. Verse 18, the simple inherit folly, but the prudent are crowned with knowledge. The simple, having yielded to the way of folly instead of heeding the oft-repeated calls of wisdom, comes to the end with nothing but folly and its grievous consequences. In contrast, are the wise who have laid up a crown of knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. Verse 19, the evil bow down before good, and the wicked at the gates of the righteous. This assures that goodwill ultimately prevails over evil, even if evil appears to be winning in the short term. It also points to God's ultimate justice, which ensures that wicked will be held accountable for their actions, and the righteousness will be rewarded. The wicked or evildoers will be forced into a position of submission and humility before the righteous, much like a conquered enemy. Now, verses 20 and 21, I have those grouped together. The poor is hated, even if his own neighbor, but the rich hath many friends. He that despiseth his neighbor sinneth, but he that hath mercy on the poor, happy is he. And it's often true that friends and neighbors of the poor are fair, whether kind, who renege when a need arises. To respect the rich and disregard or despise the poor is a lack of wisdom, a sin and a reproach to God. To have compassion for the poor and help them is as lending to the Lord and assures his blessing. Jesus commended the example of the Good Samaritan. Jesus used the Good Samaritan. So God frowns on how we treat the poor. And you see that a lot of times. A rich person, they'll cater to the rich person before they'll cater to the poor person. And God doesn't like that when you despise or make fun of the poor. And here's a psalm of David, Psalm 41, verse 1. Is blessed is he that considereth the poor. The Lord will deliver him in time of trouble. Verse 22, do they not err that devise evil? But mercy and truth shall be to them that devise good. They who plan evil will go astray from the right. And then Proverbs 12:2 states that the Lord condemns such. And then the second line here that talks about commends those who devise good with assurance that the loving kindness or mercy and unwavering truth of the Lord undergirdeth or strengthens them. Verse 23, in all labor there is profit, but the talk of the lips tendeth only to penury. This suggests that honest labor brings profit, but all talk and no labor tendeth only to poverty. If you talk about it and don't do anything, you're not going to get anything. And then verse 24, the crown of the wise is their riches, but the foolishness of fools is folly. The crown or the reward of the wise is true riches of wisdom. But the accomplishment of fools is hopelessness that attends folly. There's another contrast from the wise to the foolish. And then verse 25, a true witness delivereth souls, but a deceitful witness speaketh lies. Here, the truth that's rightly presented sets men free from the error that destroys not only life but souls. Deceitful witnesses who distort and suppress truth lead men to eternal destruction. Again, you have another contrast here between the wisdom and the foolish. Now, verse 26 and verse 27. In the fear of the Lord is strong confidence, and his children shall have a place of refuge. The fear of the Lord is a foundation of life, to depart from the snares of death. The benefits bestowed upon those who fear or having the right attitude towards the Lord, these benefits are a sense of divine watch care. And then the fountain of life is a source of spiritual enrichment that protects from the traps that ensnare those without a right relationship with the Lord. Verse 28, in the multitude of people is the king's honor, but in want of people is destruction of the prince. The worth of a leader is measured by the multitude of his followers. The leader without followers has a meaningless title. And Solomon sought wisdom from God and influenced many. In other words, And then verse 29, He that is slow to wrath is of great understanding, but he that is hasty of spirit exalteth folly. Here, the one slow to act in anger manifests great understanding. But he that is hasty in decisions and actions quickly publicizes his folly. In other words, he makes it known. He shows what type of person he is. Verse 30, a sound heart is the life of the flesh, but envy the rottenness of the bones. A peaceful heart or mind promotes physical well-being, but envy is destructive to the health. And those with a peaceful heart or mind, they're not easily bothered by troubles of life. You know, they realize that they're there, but they don't let the troubles of life get the best of them or take over. And in verse 31, he that oppresseth the poor reproacheth his maker, but he that honoreth him hath mercy on the poor. God's concern here for the poor and needy. God is creator of all. God's created every one of us. We're all important to him. And he's the creator of all, including the poor, and God is reproached by any who oppress the poor. He that honors God has mercy on, or showing kindness to the needy. So again, it tells you he has a concern for the poor and the needy. And we should be ready to help the poor and the needy whenever it's needed. Verse 32, the wicked is driven away in his wickedness, but the righteous hath hope in his death. Here's a glimpse of life's end. The wicked is driven away, separated without hope, is implied, but the righteous has hope in his death. This explains the continuing hopelessness of the wicked after death. Proverbs 11:7, when a wicked man dieth, his expectation shall perish, and the hope of unjust men perish. In other words, the wicked, when it comes to the end of his life, if he still remains in his wicked ways, he has no hope. He's doomed. Verse 33, wisdom resteth in the heart of him that hath understanding, but that which is in the midst of fools is made known. In other words, a wise person, he does not make known his wisdom. He doesn't flaunt it or show it, to look at me, look how good I am, I have good wisdom. He doesn't do that. But a fool will use every opportunity to display his ignorance. Verse 34, righteousness exalteth a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people. Righteousness exalts, but sin is a reproach or disgrace to any people. Our own sins will bring down our nation, not failed economic policies or invading enemies. Our sin is what's going to bring our nation down, not the failed policies or the invading of enemies. It's our own sin that's going to bring the nation down. Verse 35, the king's favor is toward a wise servant, but his wrath is against him that causes shame. Well, a servant, person, or employee who exercises wisdom in performing his required duties will incur the favor of his superior. But those who bring shame upon him will receive his displeasure. In other words, he's not going to be happy with those type of people that cause him shame and cause him problems, that sort of thing. Here, the setting the application, Wisdom resteth in the heart of him that hath understanding. The term resteth comes from a Hebrew word that means to settle down and remain. Let us remember that God's wisdom is freely given to those who ask in faith. Let us seek the Lord's wisdom and let it settle deep down in our hearts. While the fear of man can cause all kinds of negative consequences, the fear of the Lord is always positive. Our fear of the Lord urges us to seek wisdom and understanding. It causes us to hate evil and depart from it. It causes us to pursue God and seek his guidance. It causes faithful obedience. We want to do what is right, so we seek the Lord for understanding and wisdom to live out what he commands. So let us live our lives in the fear of the Lord all the day long. Okay, so that's all I have. So,
Frank,
Sue?
verse 25, when I read this, it put my mind to the New Testament. A true witness delivers soul, but it's a deceitful witness who speaks lies. Remember Jesus in his trial?
Mm-hmm.
They couldn't find anything to put him to death.
No.
What did they bring in?
They brought in 2 witnesses to lie.
They lied.
Yeah. So they produced, they couldn't find it, so they brought somebody in to falsely accuse him.
And then, who was the true witness? Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
I thought about that.
That's a good thought. Anyone else? Okay, if there's no other comments, Bob, would you dismiss us this